Welcome to the Minotaur's Maze. Now, my guest today is an entrepreneur, investor, and deal maker with almost 3 decades of experience. He has worked on over 330 transactions worth over $48 billion in 17 different countries. He has analyzed thousands of businesses, big and small, and is now on a mission to revolutionize the M&A arena. It is with great pleasure for me to introduce a personal mentor of mine, Carl Allen. Carl, thank you for being here, and how are you today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me, buddy. I know we've scheduled this a few times, so no, it's awesome, to be with you and talk about deals. We can talk about 75 Hard that you and I are both going through right now. We can talk about scaling businesses, selling businesses, buying businesses, whatever you want. You've got my undivided attention. Brilliant. How can I serve your tribe?
Well, firstly, let's just start with, for those that don't know you, just a quick history about yourself, both personally and professionally.
Great. So I'm becoming an old guy now. I'm 50 this year. So I started as a deal maker in 1992. So left university. My first degree actually was in structural engineering. I became a structural engineer. I was really good at it. Was top of my class at uni. Worked for a really good engineering firm in Manchester. But my buddy, who was I thought he was stupid, with a far inferior degree, he got a job at an investment bank in London, and I was earning, this is 1992, as an engineer, I was earning £11,200 a year, right? My buddy, who got, I got a first class honours degree in structural engineering. He got like a third class degree in, I don't know, basket weaving or something. And he was earning 40 grand a year in an investment bank. And I thought, well, that's not fair. So I went to see him one weekend in London. He was living in Covent Garden, and I was in the pub one Friday night with his boss. And I just said to his boss, how come you guys earn so much money? Anyway, the guy hired me on the spot. So I went to work for Bank of America as a graduate trainee. And you go through all the different rotations through the bank, all the different departments. And I ended up in the mergers and acquisitions department, and I knew nothing about M&A. And my first boss said, it's like buying and selling houses, but it's just a bit more involved. So that became my entry into the deal making world. So as an investment banker, I worked on tons and tons of deals, lots of them, big, hundreds of millions and billions of dollars, for companies like IBM, Boeing, GE, and latterly Microsoft. And then I left the bank, early 2000s, once the NASDAQ had crashed. I specialized in technology deals and industrial deals. So I went to business school, I did an MBA, and then I had a brief stint working for a private equity firm. And we'd invested in a software company, which we ended up selling to Hewlett-Packard. And I ended up going to HP as one of their M&A directors, which was an awesome job to see how a massive company buys businesses, how they integrate their businesses, how they focus on things like culture and systems and all those things. So I had a great time at HP, did some monster deals, and then my life massively changed in 24 hours on the 1st of February 2008. So I'm in Moscow in a boardroom closing a deal. We were buying a company in Russia, and my phone rang. And it's my wife, and she's ringing me like every 60 seconds. And I'm thinking, well, something's wrong. So I answered the phone, and she'd gone into labor with our son, Josh. He was 4 or 5 weeks early. So I had to literally run out of the boardroom. Luckily, I had my phone, I had my wallet, and I had my passport. My passport's full of stickers. I traveled a lot, or I used to before COVID. So I ran out of the meeting. I flagged down a cab, got to the airport, flew home to England, police escort all the way to the hospital. And I got there about 5 minutes before my son was born. So my son was born, and he was really tiny because he was 4 weeks early, and I'm cradling this tiny little guy, and the nurses had put a hat on him. So I didn't know babies came with hats. They come with hats. So he's there in this little beanie hat, and he's looking at me. I just burst into tears. It was, and I'm, I got goosebumps on my arms telling you the story, and I'm cradling this little guy, and I'm really emotional. And I just thought, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I'm going to quit. So I called my boss, and I quit. I walked away from $1 million of options, but it was all about my family at that point. I needed to be with them and support them. I'd not been around during the pregnancy, and to almost miss the birth of your son was the most gut-wrenching feeling. I felt so guilty. So I quit, and I decided to retire, and I was 37, and it was way too young, but I did it anyway. And after about 3 weeks, I got really, really sick. I got mentally really poorly. I'd gone from 100 hours a week, hard charging, traveling all over the world. It's a tough life as a corporate deal maker, but I enjoyed it, and I made a lot of money. But I couldn't go to doing nothing. So I remember sitting down with Julia, my wife, and I said, look, what am I going to do? She said, well, your biggest strength is your biggest weakness. She says, your biggest strength is you're one of the best in the world at buying and selling companies. Your biggest weakness is that's all you know how to do. So you've got to do that. And I thought, well, I don't want a boss, and I don't want to travel. I want to work for myself. So I thought, I'm going to become a business broker. So I set myself up. As you know, business brokers in the UK, it's an unregulated industry. Anyone can do it. So I set myself up. I went on LinkedIn, and I got a client. So I got a transportation company in Liverpool, about £3 million in turnover, very profitable. Two brothers that owned it, and they wanted to retire. So I went in, and they said, look, go find us a buyer for this business. So I did. I did my thing. I found 4 or 5 interested parties, had a bit of an auction, got the highest bid, and anyway, pushing through on the deal. So this went on for about 3 months. As you know, it takes about 3 months to buy a business. So after about 3 months, it's the day before closing, right? So it's Thursday night, and it's pouring down with rain, and I'm in my home office. I'm in my study now at home, but in my last house. So I'm in my home office because I work from home then, and I'm just going through all the kind of legal docs, just getting everything tied together. And as you know, business brokers make most of their money on the back end when the deal actually happens. So I was going to get about a £200,000 fee for this deal. So it's a lot of money. And I'd worked on this deal for 90 days, pretty much full time. And it was about 6 o'clock, and the phone rings, and it's one of the owners. It's Colin. It's like, we're pulling the deal. I'm like, no, can't pull the deal. I got 200 grand riding on this, but you were so positive about these new owners. He said, well, we're pulling it. Come down, and we'll tell you. We want to meet you now. So I went down, and I walked into so this was a transport company with a massive warehouse. So they did a lot of warehousing and stuff as well. So I goes into the warehouse. It's huge. And all the people in the business are in the warehouse. There's about 50 people, all the drivers, all the warehouse people, all the admin people, everyone's in the warehouse. And the two brothers are at the front. And Colin said to me, he said, look, we're pulling the deal because the new owners, they were a large transport company, about £50 million turnover. They're going to rip the company apart tomorrow. They're going to change the name. They're going to fire everybody. All they want the warehouse, they want the trucks, and they want the customers. They don't want any of the staff. And we can't take all that money and retire and sit on a beach knowing that we're going to be putting these people in harm's way. They're not going to be able to pay their mortgages, feed their families. And, we've worked out that we'd end up giving half of the money away to, take care of these people. So they said, go find a buyer that maybe it's not a business, maybe it's an individual. Go find somebody that will buy this business and will cherish it and will protect it. And they can't fire anybody, they can't change the name, and they can't disrupt what we've built over the last 30 years. And I looked at them, and all these people are looking at me. All these people in the business, they're all staring at me. And I looked at the guy, and I don't know what came over me, right? One of those moments in life, something triggered in my brain. And I looked him square in the eyes, and I said, I'll buy the business. And he started laughing at me. He's like, what? What are you talking about? You don't know anything about this industry. I said, well, I've been working with you for 90 days. I know exactly how your business works. I know everything about the competition. I know everything about how to scale it. I know everything. I said, I can't pay you anywhere near what they were going to pay you. So I'd done the numbers in my head, and I said, I can pay you X. I can pay you half of the money at completion because I'm going to finance the building, the trucks, and there was a ton of surplus cash in the business. I'll give you all that. And then the rest of the money, I'll give you a profit split over the next 3 years. It's called an earn-out. So whatever profit we make over the next 3 years, I'll give you half of that money. And if I don't pay you that money, you can just have the business back. And then I pointed at the sales manager, I pointed at the financial controller, and I pointed at the operations manager, and I said, I'm going to give those 3 people 10% of the company, and we'll run it as a team. And Colin looked at me and he said, I'll give you 30 days. If you can pull that off in 30 days, then you've got a deal. And everyone's cheering and clapping. And there's this big guy, can't remember his name. He's about 6'7", big trucker, comes over to me, lifts me up, and is kind of carrying me around the warehouse. I was like the savior. So I got in my car and I drove home, and I just thought, what the hell have you done? Why on earth are you going to do something like that? And I got home and my wife said, well, that's never going to work. What a crazy thing to do. You better call him back right now. And I thought, well, no. So the following morning, I called my bank. So I called my bank and I said, look, I need to raise some money against this business. Here are the assets. I had all the data because I've been running the deal. And within 24 hours, they gave me a term sheet, which covered the closing payment plus fees, plus some working capital. So then I called up a lawyer friend of mine and said, hey, I need you to do the paperwork on this deal. Then I called my accountant and said, I need you to do some due diligence. I ain't going to pay you guys until this thing closes. So, but here's my term sheet, here's my deal. And about 25 days later, we closed. So that was my first deal, my first business I bought. And since then, so that was late 2008. Since then, I've been buying and selling businesses, not just in the UK. I've bought and sold companies in Australia. I've bought and sold companies in the United States. I own a private equity fund in the US called Prox Capital Group with my business partner, Adam Markley. And then about 5 years ago, so late 2015, early 2016, I started getting inundated with people wanting me to teach them how to do what I do. How do I do business? So how do I buy businesses 1 to 10 million pounds in turnover? How do I buy those businesses, and how do I structure those deals without necessarily A, having to invest my own money, or B, without ever having operated or owned a business in that sector? And obviously my knowledge had come from 20 years of doing it on Wall Street. And whether you're buying a $1 billion company or a £2 million company, the process is exactly the same. The only difference is seller psychology. So once you understand the psychology of a small business owner and what their motivations are for wanting to sell a business, then the technical, mechanical process is pretty straightforward. So I'm thinking about it, and I'm thinking, well, I don't want to go to hotels and do it like my good friend Jeremy Harbour, who runs the Harbour Club. And I was fascinated at the time about online businesses. So one of my friends that I used to go to the gym with, this was 2015, 2016. One of my buddies in the gym was killing it as an internet marketer. So he was selling products and services online through Facebook ads and YouTube ads and delivering his content through like a ClickFunnels solution. So I thought, well, wouldn't it be cool if I put all of my knowledge and all of my experience of doing these deals with all of my case studies and all of my finance contacts and business broker sites and all the stuff you'd need to know and learn, the skills and tools you'd need to master to be able to buy a business without using your own money. So I put it in a program, which was called the Business Buying Accelerator. And now we've got over 5,500 people in that training program all over the world, primarily in the UK and the US, but we've got people in pretty much every country. And they're off and they're doing deals. And then, as you know, we have the Dealmaker Academy, which is where we do group coaching. So we're reviewing deals every week. There's a call today, as you know, because you're on it. And that's great. So I guess where I am in my life is I've got two major things that I do. So I co-own a private equity firm. So we're buying and growing and selling businesses. So I eat my own cooking. I don't just teach this stuff. I do this stuff every single day, and I own multiple businesses in various different countries. But then, so that's great for wealth creation and that's great for freedom. But for me, what I love more than anything is coaching. I love coaching people. I love sharing my secrets. I love sharing my systems. And the biggest kick I get out of it is when I see people change their lives and go from, a stuck, tired employee working for somebody else to having the freedom of becoming a business owner and having something that they can be really, really proud about. And, a lot of people do this for money, and that's fine. It is hard work, as you know. It's not a get-rich-quick scheme. It's a get-rich-slow scheme. It takes patience and dedication and mastery. But you can make a lot of money, but it's nice when I see people doing it for other reasons, like work-life balance, freedom, pride, and in some cases, building generational wealth, which then allows you to build a legacy. So that's what I do.
Brilliant. So there's a lot to unpack in that. So many different talking points in there. But let's start from basically your transition from being an employee to becoming an entrepreneur. Because for me personally, that's been the most difficult thing. And a lot of people that are employees that are thinking about buying a business, I'm pretty certain that, one of the biggest thing that they're going to or the biggest challenge that they're going to have to go through is the mindset of being an employee to being an entrepreneur. So when you first started, specifically about your mindset, what fears and doubts did you have? And what did you do to overcome them? So just tell us about that transition when you first got into entrepreneurship.
Yeah, so I wasn't a typical employee moving into entrepreneurship because having been a Wall Street guy and a corporate M&A guy, I'd made a lot of money in my life, and I'd saved really. I'm from Lancashire, bit like Yorkshire. We don't like spending money. We're in, I like investing money. I don't like spending it. So I'd saved really, really well. And my wife's a Lancastrian as well, and she's of the same mindset for me. So I didn't have to work again. I was financially free, but I needed something to stimulate my brain. So I didn't have that financial pressure that a lot of people normally have when they quit a well-paid job and go into the unknown. So I didn't have that. I guess for me though, I didn't have any fears. I didn't have any doubts. It was kind of, I felt unleashed because what was powering me in my mindset. So my mindset at the time was, I've neglected my family. I've been not a great husband. I've just got a newborn baby. I want to be the best husband and the best father that I can possibly be. And my corporate job was getting in the way. So for me, it was a simple shift that if I go to become an entrepreneur, I thought, even if I don't make any money, I'm going to have freedom. I'm going to have a work-life balance. I'm going to be able to do all the things I love and I enjoy with my family. I'm not going to be playing to the tune of somebody else. Like, it was crazy. So when you're a corporate M&A guy, I'd wake up in the morning, right? This seriously, I'd wake up in the morning at 6 a.m. I'd turn on my phone and I'd have a message from the States saying, you know, we need you in Denver at 4 p.m. local time. The flight's booked. You know, we sent the driver. I'd look out the window and the freaking guy's outside their house. And I've got 5 minutes to shower, pack, get my passport and get my arse in that car because I'm on a plane in 2 hours. And it's like, you know, I hated that. And some people think, you know what, that sounds so glamorous. You're flying business class to the US, and no, it's horrible, man. I once went to and from the UK to the US 3 times in 7 days.
Wow. Wow.
I once flew to the US for a meeting, flew back overnight, and then when I arrived at the airport and turned on my phone, they booked me on the flight going back because I had to go back for another meeting. It was horrible and it was awful. And so I didn't really have any fear, uncertainty, and doubt about it. It was, I needed to do it because my purpose and my leverage over myself was I wasn't going to let my family down. I needed to focus on them and not on my career. But I knew I could do something really cool whilst ticking all the family boxes. So what I've seen though, with obviously I've touched thousands and thousands and thousands of people that come in to all of our different coaching programs, and obviously one of the biggest fears if they're working full time is you know, can I risk giving all that up to go and buy a business? And the good news is you don't have to, because you can do it part-time. The way I designed all my training programs, as you know, because you've gone through them, is you can do them in you know, 5 to 10 hours per week, depending on how fast you want to go, which means you can still have a job and earn the money you need. You can still be with your family or do whatever you want to do. And then once you go and buy a business, once that's generating the cash flow per month that you get as the owner, once that is more than what you're making as an employee, then you can switch. You don't have to take the risks and do it before.
Brilliant. Okay, so let's just stick to that point. So why is acquisition so powerful, and why is it more powerful than any traditional, you know, maybe starting a business or any other business model, both in terms of somebody who's never run a business before, but also for businesses looking to scale? Why is acquisitions probably the most powerful strategy for them to use?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So let's break it down into the 2 types. So let's first talk about first-time business owners, then we'll talk about existing businesses. So for first-time business owners, you know, a lot of people get the urge to, you know, to quit the corporate life and go do something for themselves. Obviously, you know, being an entrepreneur, it's a buzzword. I don't think people realize, you know, how difficult it can be at times, but you know, it's a sexy thing. A lot of people want to do it. I don't have any solid UK data, but in the States, last year, 2019, 6.6 million Americans started a brand new business.
Right.
Okay, and 96% of those people will fail
Right.
inside of 10 years. 50%, so 3.3 million of those people will crash and burn and fail inside of just 1 year. And the reason is that there's 2 reasons. The first one is, it's what I call the no problem. So when you start a brand new business, you have no employees, no products or services, no cash, no credit, no premises, no equipment, no customers, no reputation. So it's really, really, really tough to start from zero. Whereas if you buy an existing business, it's got all of those different things. It's got cash flow, it's got employees. And even if you want to innovate something that the market doesn't have, go and buy a business that's similar, and then you can innovate whatever you want to do from within that business. It will be paying you cash flow while you do it. You'll have employees that will help you do it. And then once you've done it, you've already got customers that are probably going to buy it. So buying versus starting is really straightforward. One of the other reasons why a lot of startups fail is people go into business because they're very, very good at the technical aspects of the business. So if you're a really, really good cook, you open a restaurant. Mm-hmm. If you're a really, really good web designer, you go open a web design business. And that's great, but you still don't have the skills and tools that you need to run a business. Running a business is very, very different. It's a different skill completely to what the business does. So it's all about the sales, the marketing, the financial accountabilities, the leadership, the strategic work that you need to do, understanding supply chains and operations and all of those different things, understanding cash flow and cash flow management and being able to read your numbers so you know what you're doing and being able to make changes if you need to. And, you know, unless you've got an MBA, yeah, they teach you that stuff when you're doing an MBA, but not really, if I'm being honest. So what's, you know, trying to do that from nothing is impossible. If you go and buy an existing business, it has all of that stuff already included. And the owner of the business that's selling it to you, they will train you on how their business works. They will show you their processes. They will show you their systems. And then once you buy that business, you don't have to operate it. If you want to run the business yourself, fine. There's no right or wrong answer. But for me, I don't work in any of my businesses. I have general managers or managing directors that are running my businesses for me. They're incentivized. I give them equity. I pay them very well. But you know, they have the free rein to run that business based on the strategic vision that me and that person have effectively agreed. And then I'm just remote managing that business, sometimes on a daily basis, but generally on a weekly basis.
Okay, that's the you know, individuals. What about?
And then with existing business owners, so let's say you started a business, and let's say you're in the 4% that have made it. So 96% fail, 4% succeed. So you're in that 4%. And let's say you start a business and it takes you 5 years to get to £1 million in turnover, right? Bearing in mind, only 1% of businesses, 1% ever get to £1 million in turnover. In the online space, in the digital space, it's 1.2%. So generally 1% of businesses get to 1 million, 99% either fail or you know, stay in six figures. So if it's taken you 5 years to get to £1 million in turnover, it might take you another 3 years to get to 2 million. If you buy another business that's doing £1 million, you can get to 2 million in 30 to 45 days.
Oh, okay.
Because all you're doing is buying another business and bolting it in to what you've already got. You can buy a competitor, so you're doubling down on your market share. You could buy inside of your supply chain. If you're an engineering company and a third of your gross profit has been spent on a supplier, go buy them. Go buy that supplier. You know, if you're making components for an airplane and you're buying in lots of other components from one company, go and acquire it, and then you're locking that profit back into your company. Plus, they've got their own customers that you can keep working with as well. Or what you can do is you can buy in a complementary industry. So if you're a software company, you've got software and customers. If you went and bought, say, an IT services company, they have IT services and their own customers. You can sell the services to your existing software customers. You can sell your software to the new services customers you just acquired. So you get this big cross-sell of revenue or turnover at a much smaller cost base. Because when you stick those two businesses together, a lot of those costs, those duplicate costs, you can get rid of, like overhead and cost of sales and you know, cost of buildings and travel and marketing and IT and finance and all those different things. So you can scale not only the size of your business. Remember, you know, turnover is vanity, but profit is sanity, and cash flow is reality. Cash flow in the bank is reality. So by building those two together, it's like a 1 + 1 = 2.5 on the turnover side, but it's a 1 + 1 = maybe 4 or 5 on the profit side. So so acquiring to scale an existing business is much, much easier than hustling and trying to grow organically. And that's what all the big guys do. That's the job I had at HP. You look at Amazon, you know, the number of businesses they're acquiring every single month. to move their needle and give them expertise and customer segments that, frankly, they don't have, and they don't have the time to go and figure out how to do that themselves. They'll just go and buy somebody. They got, I think, $100 billion in the bank. So go spend that money and buy in those skills.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that point, because one of the biggest, I hear this a lot, and it's something that obviously has been in my head a lot. When you think about deal making and buying businesses, you typically think this is for the big boys, the big corporations, the Wall Street guys.
Yeah.
But can anybody really do it? Is it for anybody? And does it work with the smaller stuff? And then what would you say? What is the number one skill you would need to get it done?
Yeah, so absolutely, it works in any sector, in any size of deal. Bearing in mind, 99.9% of all businesses are sub £10 million in turnover. Yeah, you've got the big guys that are doing deals. That's where I'm from. M&A in the small market is slightly different. The process is the same, but when you're doing small deals, it's a lot more about the seller psychology than it is about the numbers. So when you're HP and you're paying $4.5 billion for a software company, which we did once, called Mercury, that deal's all about financial engineering. When you're buying a £2 million or £3 million transport company from two owners that want to retire, but are really afraid that the buyer is going to destroy their business, it's less about the money, it's more about the psychology. So you have to understand that. And in any negotiation, it doesn't matter whether it's in selling or whether it's in life or whether it's in deal making, in buying businesses, the golden rule is just, figure out what the other side wants and just give it to them. And often it's not all about the money. They might want some money, but you could have a small business owner that doesn't have the funds to retire, owns a small business. There's millions of businesses for sale and only about 1 in 11 sell within the first 12 months. So you've got an owner chained to their business, frustrated, burnt out, tired. They could be sick, could be dying in some cases. Not just them, could be a family member as well. They're really fed up and they're really trapped. They can't shut the business down because they need their monthly salary to live. So in some cases, that person will sell you their business and you just pay them over time. It's called seller financing in the US, vendor financing in Australia, or deferred consideration. We have fancier terms in England. Deferred consideration in the UK, which basically means that if you're buying a business for £1 million, let's say it's doing £400,000 a year of profit, and you're buying that business for a 2.5 times multiple, which is about the average. So you're paying £1 million for that business. It's doing 400 grand a year in profit. Just pay the seller 200 grand a year for 5 years. So you get 200 grand a year because you now own the business, even if you don't grow it, and the seller gets the 200 grand a year times 5. That's the seller cashed out for £1 million. So there's a lot that goes into this. Obviously, there's a bit of financial understanding and deal structuring. There's a little bit of project management that you need to master, because you won't do the due diligence or the legals, or even necessarily raise the financing. You can use people to do all that for you. So you got to project manage them. There's obviously deal origination that you've got to do. You got to go out and find deals. That's more of a sales and marketing skill set. It's very easy once you know how to do it. But the kind of the 3 skills that I would say you really need to learn and master in this is, the first one is really understanding mindset. So the first thing is understanding your own mindset, and then how to understand really what's going on for the seller, so you can position a deal that's going to perfectly align to what they want and what their issues are. And in terms of your own mindset, that really boils down to, it's very easy for somebody to determine what type of business they want to buy. I always advocate stay in your lane, stay in a sector and you understand, because it just makes it a lot easier. So if you're an engineer, go buy an engineering company. Don't buy a petrol station or a laundromat or a hotel. Go and buy something that you know something about. Because once you bought the business, you know, you want to be able to add value to it, to grow it, and then sell it one day and make a lot of money. So the most important question, though, that a deal maker needs to ask themselves is why? Why do I want to buy a business? And you know, the really funny thing is nobody wants to buy a business.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to own a business. What we want as deal makers are the benefits. What are the deep emotional benefits that we will get from becoming a business owner? And that's different for everybody. For me, it's legacy, it's freedom, it's pride, it's assurance. For others, it's wealth creation, generational wealth creation, it's cash flow so they can, you know, just enjoy a better quality of life. You know, money's just a tool, yeah? Money, if you've got problems, money will make it worse. If you've got a great life, money will make it better. Money's just a tool to do different things, to spend on your family, on yourself, on your community, give to charity, you know, whatever. So this isn't all just about money. It's about the other things. Being able to work when you want, where you want, being able to go on vacation when you want because you're not beholden to somebody else. Those are the really powerful things. And once you dial that in and you really understand, you know, why I actually want to do this, that gives your kind of heart and your mind a lot of fuel to kind of have you follow through and master a lot of these principles. Because as I said before, this is not easy. You know, this takes time, it takes effort, it takes patience, and it takes a level of mastery. And sure, we've got all the training and coaching programs one would need to do that, but you don't really have the purpose to do it. All the training in the world's not going to help you. You can go through the training program 100 times, you'll get really smart at it, but unless you start taking action and getting things done, calling sellers, calling brokers, making offers, getting information, building relationships, that is really important. So mindset's number one. The second one, I've just touched on it. This is a relationship business. When you're a Wall Street guy and you're doing, you know, billion-dollar deals every day, yeah, it's about relationships, but it's a lot more about that kind of financial kind of engineering process. It's really easy when you're at HP to buy businesses because I don't know what they're doing now, but back in the day, you know, 13, 14 years ago, they had tens of billions of dollars on their balance sheet. They had tons and tons of stock or shares that they could use. So when you're buying a business, you're just using your own share price. It's phenomenal, the rocket fuel they have. But in the small business arena, it's all about relationships. You got to build relationships first with the seller, because remember, this is somebody that they might have owned that business for 25, 30 years, and they might have spent more time in that business than they have with their own family. And to sell it and retire, it's like giving away one of the children. You know, it's awful. So understanding what they're going through and you know, being a friend as well as buying their business makes a huge difference. So the ability to master relationships with a seller, with brokers, with financiers, with lawyers and accountants that you also need to work with other people as well that you might bring into the deal, partners. You know, if you want to buy a business that you don't know a lot about that industry, it'd be crazy if you'd attempt it on your own. You know, go on LinkedIn, find an angel investor or a partner that really knows that space and do the deal together and own the business 50-50. So the way to build relationships and build rapport and get people to know you, like you, and trust you in this industry is a really, really important skill. And then the third skill is, and this is a weird one, but I'll say anyway, you need to master the ability to listen. And what I mean by that is some deal makers, rookie deal makers, they'll pile into a call with a seller or they'll pile into a meeting. And all they do for an hour is they talk about themselves. And you got to do a little bit of that because you got to get the guy to or the lady to like you and know you and trust you. But really, it's all about listening. You've read the book Never Split the Difference, yeah? Chris Voss.
I haven't read that one. It's on my list. I haven't read that one.
So
yeah.
my go-to book, I have like 10 copies of this all over the place. in my offices, all over the place. I have this book, one of the best books I've ever read. So Chris Voss used to be the lead FBI hostage negotiator, and that book, which you can apply in business, it teaches you how to negotiate and how to get what you want in an ethical way. And one of the key takeaways from that book is you need to listen 2 to 3 times more than you actually speak. Because if you ask open-ended questions to sellers and you listen to them in detail, you'll get clues as to what's going on. And then you can map your deal to exactly what their requirements are. Very, very powerful. So just to recap, understanding mindset, your own and the sellers, really mastering the skill of building relationships. And then 3, understanding negotiation and really learning how to listen to people. Everything else is easy. Numbers, we give you all that stuff. Finding deals, there's millions of them. Understanding what the business is doing. Again, if you stay in your own industry, it just becomes a lot easier. Like someone like you, used to be a lawyer. Go by a law firm. You understand the industry. You know how people think and work and act. You know how to get customers in that world. Why would you then go and buy a restaurant? You know nothing about a restaurant. Or why would you go and buy a web design company if you've never done anything like that? So staying in your lane is...
So actually, let's just stick on that point, because yes, I am a lawyer, and the reason why I don't want to buy a law firm is because I've literally hated my career as a lawyer, and I don't want to go forward in this field. So if I want to go into a different field and I'm going out of my lane, and I'm sure there's lots of people like that out there, what would be the best thing for us to do in that situation where we're going into completely different fields?
Yeah, sure. So before I answer that, let me just say to you, though, you can buy a law firm and never have to work inside of it.
Okay. Right.
You can just own a law firm and not have to deal with the politics and the stuff that law firms generate. You then just become the business owner.
Yeah.
So you're just dealing with the strategic part of the business. How do we grow it? How do we make more money? Do we consolidate 3 or 4 other smaller practices and make a bigger one? You're not the guy driving the bus. You're the guy with the map.
Yeah.
That's directing the driver. Let somebody else drive that bus and deal with all that stuff. You don't have to do that. However, if the thought of even getting anywhere near that drives you nuts, then yeah, to get into an industry that you don't know anything about, I would say the very, very least, buddy, you need to have passion for it. Yeah, don't if you want to buy a business in an area that you don't know, at least it's got to be something that you're super passionate about. So one of your fellow academy students, he's an IBM sales guy,
right?
Very good IBM sales guy, and he wants not to buy an IT company, which would make absolutely perfect sense. People know you from IBM, they're going to want to talk to you, but he doesn't. He wants to get out of the industry. He's like you, is sick of it. He wants to buy a vineyard because he loves wine. He's been on some wine tasting courses. He's really, really into fine wines. So wants to buy a vineyard in Napa Valley, and there's tons and tons of them for sale because they're all owned by baby boomers, and they want to retire. So loads of them available. And you can finance those types of businesses as well. But I said to him, why on earth do you want to buy a vineyard? You know nothing about the wine industry. You know how to drink it, but do you know how to grow it? Do you know how to ferment it? Do you know how to bottle it? Do you know how to market it? Do you understand all that different stuff about running that business? No. So why would you want to buy a business if you don't understand anything about it? He said, yeah, you got a point there. I said, well, if you really want to do it though, just go and partner with somebody that knows all those different things. Either go find a vineyard that's got a GM inside of it that will stay and run it for you, or go on LinkedIn, go and find a vineyard type person that will help you do that deal and will help you run and grow that business once you've acquired it. So for you, what you need to do is pick a sector that you can be really passionate about, because that's going to give you a lot of fuel to follow through and get it done and take action. But then just go and complement that with somebody that really understands the inner workings of that particular sector. And then you're like a dream team then, aren't you? You can run the deal. You've got the passion for making it done. You've got all the energy and focus. And then your deal partner, they've got, you know, the kind of the industry experience and the contacts that will A, add value to the deal, and B, will add value to the business. So that's what I would do.
Brilliant, brilliant. I mean, sticking to that point, well, similar to that point. So I obviously speak to a lot of millennials, and they love this idea of buying businesses. But two things come up. So first thing is they lack the obviously mindset and the self-esteem. So they've got self-esteem issues. And secondly, they prefer to collaborate rather than do things by themselves. So they don't want to be a solo owner. They want to collaborate with other people, and not that they've got this idea. I mean, I've got this idea as well, but for whatever reason, we've got this idea of that we want to, you know, change the world and do something massive. So how viable would something like this be, where instead of, you know, everyone buying one business for themselves, how viable would it be to get 50, 100 like-minded people together, go out and buy one business each, and then bring it in to create a behemoth corporation that can then go on to, you know, create massive social impact and social change? How viable is that, and what would the structure of something like that look like?
So I think that's a really good idea, because I think then by combining a group of people, let's just take 10 people. Yep. Let's say you get 10 people. They're all from different industry backgrounds. They've all got different skills. They've all got different experiences. They're all different ages. Melding that together is really, really powerful. So as an idea, it's a really good idea. Where something like that would probably break down, in my opinion, is on the implementation, because you're dealing with 10 people or 50 people or 100 people, all with different outcomes. They've all got different desires. They've all got different requirements. You might be all about legacy. The other guy might be all about wealth creation. The third guy might be about work-life balance. People like you and me, we work hard, we're super focused, we're hungry. Other people are lazy, and won't have your work ethic, or won't have our ability to kind of follow through and get things done. And that's going to create conflict. So whilst it's a great idea strategically, coming to implement something like that, I think would be really fraught with danger. I would start with just 2 people. Okay. I would start with just 2 people. And then, you know, when you really scale it up to say, you know, even 10 or 20, and you all go out and you buy a business, integrating all that together would only really make sense if it was in a kind of similar industry. So let's say you all went and bought a technology business, or you all went and bought a professional services business. Then combining it together and creating a group would be really powerful. But it wouldn't work if you did it all at once. So let's say you and 9 other people all went out and bought either an accountancy firm, a law firm, a marketing agency, a PR firm, anything in professional services, B2B. So 90 days later, you're all there with your businesses, and then you put them all together, the thing will just blow up. It won't work. You've got to do it incrementally. You buy the first business, and then you think, right, what can we bolt in? And then you do it again, and you do it again. So it's like building a house. You start with you dig the ground, you build the foundations, you build the first bit of the wall, you put the floor in, you build the next, put the floor in, then the roof. And, you know, if you try and do it all together, it's not going to work. But interesting idea.
I can stick to that. So obviously we've touched upon mindset, but if people are specifically struggling with self-esteem issues, what else can they do to build that other than learning about deal making? What would you suggest they do?
So I work on my mindset every single day. You know, you and I are doing 75 hard right now. I'm on day 27. I think you're on day 15. You told me that there's an awful lot for one's self-esteem and one's confidence and one's, power and fulfillment. You and I are badasses anyway. We're just doing this for a little bit of fun, and it's really good. But there's been times in my life when, I've not felt super confident about stuff, and I've just worked on my own personal development. I've worked on my own mindset. I've meditated. I've read a lot of books. I've had some great mentors, people like Tony Robbins, Shannon Irvin, people that have really helped me understand who I am, why I'm getting in my own way, and building that, building those muscles of mindset, to overcome all these different things. There's a couple of things I've done at Tony Robbins events which take fear completely out of your vocabulary. One of the things I did 3 years ago is walked on fire. And it's like I went to Unleash the Power Within in London, Tony Robbins, my first event, and I'm going down on the train and I'm reading the information about the experience, and I'm thinking, well, you're doing all this, you're doing all this. Oh, and you do a fire walk. You take your shoes and socks off and you walk 20 feet across 2,000 degree burning coals. And this isn't like a visual thing. Mm-hmm. This stuff's freaking burning. It smells. You can feel the heat from miles away. And I'm thinking, well, I ain't going to do that because, I won't be able to walk for the rest of my life. So you get into the event and it takes you on a journey of being resilient and eliminating fear, and walking across that fire is a metaphor. It's not about walking on fire. It's about knowing that once you do something in your life that 30 seconds before you thought was completely impossible, once you achieve that and you walk across completely unscathed, and I've done it 4 times now. I've even done it with my kids. It's amazing. Once you go through that, it just totally rewires in your brain the word fear. Like I don't even know what that word means anymore. I don't fear anything because confronted with something, I've walked across fire, I've climbed up trees and jumped off the top, all these crazy stuff that he has you do. It's not about walking on fire or climbing trees or, punching through planks of wood. Like, let me show you this. So Tony Robbins Leadership Mastery, this is a really, really heavy piece of wood. Oh. And in that event, what he does is on the back of it, it has you write down some limiting beliefs that you have.
Okay.
And then he has you put a big X through it. And then on the other side, it has you write down who do you want to be. So I've written the names of my wife, my 2 boys, and my parents who are sadly no longer with us. And then I've written down, I'm a badass leader, I'm unstoppable, and I'm full of energy and joy. And then what they do is this dude holds it up and you have got to literally punch through it.
Okay.
Right? And this stuff's hard.
Yeah.
But I just did that then, and that hurt my knuckle when I did that. But breaking through that with one punch, when you're in a peak state, you don't even feel it. It's like punching through ice cream.
Okay.
Like, boom. And literally, like, doing stuff like that tells you that fear is just a BS story that you're telling yourself.
Brilliant.
Feel the fear and just do it anyway. What have you got to lose?
Brilliant.
So obviously people, can't go to Tony Robbins events at the moment, but, read his books, follow him on YouTube and Facebook. There's tons of free stuff out there, just to help you really understand who you are and then just how to get out of your own way.
Brilliant. Absolutely. So just before we wrap up, so just quickly, there's obviously more and more business buying programs coming out there, and they're getting quite a lot of criticism that you're not really being fair to the sellers. You're manipulating their situation that they're struggling to sell. How would you answer those critics, and what would your response be to that?
Yeah, so I think it's a really interesting industry this now. There's a lot of gurus and mentors, so-called, out there, teaching this stuff. Some of them I vouch for because I trained them personally. Okay. They were some of the early adopters of my program. I created this market about 5 years ago. I was the first person ever to teach this stuff online. Some of my students that have been successful have set up, and they're doing this, which is great because they've obviously taken my process, but they've put their own mark on it. They've put their own flair on it, and they've got their own deals and their own success to back that up. So people like Ken Mack, who's a really good friend of mine, he's done a lot of really, really good deals. There are some others, however, that are doing this, and they've never closed a deal. They've never been through the process. So if you've never gone through the process, I think it's really hard in life. It's really hard in life to teach somebody something that you've never personally done. And I think there are a lot of people that that are doing that, but good luck to them. I just think that's unethical. Back to your question about are we being truly unfair to sellers? I don't believe we are. We always strive in our deals to create a win-win scenario, because as I mentioned before, when I bought that transport company, the owners got half of what they would have got if they would have sold to a trade buyer. But if they'd have sold their business to a trade buyer who would have ripped that business apart within 24 hours and destroyed 25 years of blood, sweat, and tears, I think that is so painful for a lot of sellers that they want a safer option. A lot of sellers, about 80% of sellers, particularly older sellers, they want that safe, trusted pair of hands to come on board. And clearly, as individuals, we're going to offer less money than a trade buyer. A trade buyer can pay more money because they've obviously got deeper pockets and they've got all of those synergies that we talked about before. They can cross-sell their products and services. They can take a lot of cost out of combining two businesses. So they can afford to pay a lot more because even if they don't have the money themselves, they can raise it through their bank or investors who will back them in that explosive growth scenario. So it all depends on the seller, what they actually want. You know what the number one exit strategy is for small business owners in the UK and the US? It's to close the doors and turn off the lights. Only 1 in 11 businesses will sell within the first 12 months. So if you're highly motivated to get out of your business, if you can't stand being in that business anymore, even though it's a good business, and you want to leave, if no one's going to buy it, you'll just close it down. And in a lot of cases, it can cost a seller money to shut down a business, unless they go bankrupt, which they don't want, because then they got to go to the golf club or the pub and say to their buddies, I just shut my business down. Even in some cases, they could give you that business for nothing and be better off versus closing it down. Because if they close it down, they've got to liquidate their balance sheet. So they won't get, selling their assets in a fire sale, they're not going to get 100 pence in the pound. But all of their liabilities, tax, creditors, bank loans, leases, all that stuff, you've still got to pay all that money back. Otherwise, those companies will go after you legally. So in a lot of cases, when you liquidate a business, it costs you money as an owner to do it. So by selling your business in a creative way, either giving it away or having it on deferred payments or having a little bit of the money up front through financing, can often be a win-win scenario. So I absolutely don't believe that we are manipulating sellers. We're giving them what they want, which is to move on, retire, or do something else with their life because they don't want to be in their business anymore. Brilliant. If somebody doesn't want to be in their business anymore and they can't sell it, we're adding massive value to them.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, so just to finish off then, if you just want to tell us a little bit more about your programs and how can people find out more information, and maybe just as part of talking about your program, could you share a very quick success story of one of your students?
Yeah, so in terms of so we got a whole range and portfolio of different products and services. You know because you have some of them. What I would suggest though is for somebody that's curious about this, they thought, you know what, this guy's talking a little bit of sense. I really understand where he's coming from. Either I want to buy my first business, or I own a business already, and I want to go and do something else. then what I would suggest as the first port of call is go read my book. So go read my book, No Money Down, Business Buying Secrets. Let me just grab a quick copy.
Okay.
I'm wearing my shorts off because I've just been to the gym, as you know. I'm 75 hard. I'm doing all my stuff. So my book, my Zero Business Down, Business Buying Secrets. I think it's £30 on Amazon, but we'll give you guys a $5 discount link. The reason I'd happily give it away, but if you give stuff away, people won't read it. So if they pay $5, they'll definitely read it. So we'll give you a link. If they go to trainwithcarl.com /mindset, so trainwithcarl.com /mindset, they can get access to that book for $5. And then once you go through the book, you know, it recaps some of the things we've talked about before, but what I do is I break down the process of buying a business into 10 steps. So 10 different, 10 things you need to do sequentially, from mindset, deal specification, deal origination, meetings, financing structures, due diligence, legals, and closing, all that stuff. I break it down in the book. So you get a really good kind of high level overview of what's involved. Then once you've read the book, you're either going to say, you know what, great book, but I don't want to do this. Then fine. If you think, you know what, this is something that's really interesting, then we have a whole range of courses and training videos and mentoring programs, like our academy, where you work through the training, you working on a deal, you send it in, and my team and I, every single Thursday, we break down all of those deals, and we tell you, what we would do to close them, or whether we think you're wasting your time, all that stuff. So in terms of success stories, man, there's been hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. I think my two favorites probably are so Coaston. I don't know if you know Coaston. So
I'm going to interview with Coaston. That is on the YouTube channel as well. So
is it? Yeah. So he's amazing. I remember he was one of the first people to ever come into the program, and I remember having a call with him. I met him actually not too long after he joined the program. I was in London, and he was following me on Facebook, and he's like, "Hey, I see you're in London. Can we grab a coffee?" So I had a coffee with him, and the guy was really hungry. He really wanted to do deals. He wanted to it wasn't about money for him. It was about building an amazing life for his family. And he's gone on and done 5 deals. He took his family to an African resort, and his wife and kids were like, "Oh wow, we love this place." So he negotiated in that trip to buy it, no money down from the owner.
Wow.
And now, man, the guy's on fire. He's in Africa, negotiating a deal, which we'll put this way, it'll be bigger than any deal I've ever done individually.
Wow.
So when you teach somebody your life's work, and they go on to do just truly amazing things that even eclipse your own success, that for me is one of the most proudest feelings. To see people, because he's younger than me, and he's hungrier than me, and he's on fire. So that's a great story. Another story was, I think he was one of the first 5 people to join the program. He was an optician based in the Northwest, and he wanted to buy the optical business that he worked for from the owner. So he did. Took the course, went through the training, raised the financing, bought this optical business. And then this was back in the day when I didn't have a lot of these clients. I can't do this today. I got 5,500 people, but back in the day when I had like 10, they could message me, or I'd have a call with them. So I had a quick call with him. He said, "Right, done this deal. What's next?" I said, "Well, go buy another one." So we did, and then another one. So we did. Now he owns 73. Last time I spoke to him, it's probably more than that now. So he's built this multi-million pound optical empire through doing acquisitions. So it's great. Chris Matthews, who's now a really good friend of mine, he came into the program, and he was a really huge big guy. He was like he was like a 25 stone man. So if you're listening in the US, probably 400 pounds in weight, big guy. And he went to a clinic to do a weight loss program where they use, I don't know the process, but it's a non-invasive where they put this thing on you and it basically melts away the fat inside your body. You eat all this special food and then they tighten your skin. So this guy went from 25 stone to 13 stone or something like that in about a year, totally transformed his life and his confidence. So he went and bought the clinic and now he's bought 6 more. And now he's bought the master franchisor. So yeah, I could talk all day about people of you know, for different reasons of just really, you know, just really nailed this and have really kind of transformed, you know, what they're doing. I've had students sell furniture to afford the tuition, and it's, as you know, it's not really expensive. It's a couple of thousand to join the program, and the people have sold furniture to afford it. And then those people, they're so hungry, obviously, to make it work. And now they are £1 million businesses. You know, it's good. It's good to see.
Brilliant, excellent. So, lastly, a very big thank you for doing this.
You're welcome, my friend. Anytime.
And just for everyone else, so we will drop a link below so you can get more information about the book and about the other courses. I would highly recommend them because I've been on these courses myself. And as most of you will know, I'm on my own journey, and this course was one of the greatest investments I made in terms of my own self-esteem and personal development. So I would highly recommend it. We will drop the link below. And that's all for this episode. We will see you another time. Take care now and bye-bye.
Thanks.